In a cozy village tucked away in the hills, there lived a handsome man named Nnamdi. He was rich and successful, inheriting a ton of wealth from his family after his father passed away. Being the only child, he shared his wealth with his mother. One day, he followed his mother to the market. There, amidst the hustle and bustle, he laid eyes on a stunning young woman named Olamma. It was like fireworks went off his heart. Love at first sight. So he mustered up the courage and expressed his feelings to her. Luckily, Olamma felt the same way. They started spending a lot of time together, going on dates and such. Before long, Nnamdi popped the question, and after meeting her parents, who happily gave their blessings, they got married. But shortly after the wedding, Nnamdi's mother passed away. Nnamdi was heartbroken, but Olamma was there for him, providing comfort and support. Despite this loss, they enjoyed 5 blissful years together as couple. However, as time went on, without a child, Nnamdi began to worry. Thankfully, Olamma soon became pregnant and gave birth to a son, whom they named Ekene. Nnamdi was very happy, and he decided to throw a grand celebration to welcome his newborn son into the world. Nnamdi instructed his housekeeper to get everything ready for the big celebration. The housekeeper followed his orders diligently, making sure everything was set and prepared for the special day. Nnamdi had invited his relatives and wealthy friends to join in the festivities. Little did he know, fate had a surprise in store. On that fateful day of the celebration, guests gathered in the spacious compound, eagerly waiting the start of the ceremony. They were filled with joy and wonder as the native dances and music began, performed by the talented village cultural dance troupe who had been invited to entertain them. As the celebration unfolded, a few people took the stage to express their gratitude for Nnamdi's kindness and generosity. Just as the master of ceremonies was about to introduce Nnamdi and his wife Olamma, a woman suddenly appeared in the midst of the gathering. She looked poor and frail, holding 2 young boys by her side. The unexpected arrival of the woman sparked curiosity among the guests. The master of ceremonies hesitated to give her the floor, but one of Nnamdi's close friends encouraged him to let her speak. With all eyes on her, the woman began to recount a troubling story about Nnamdi. She claimed that Nnamdi was a cruel man who had abandoned his own children for over 10 years. Her words sent shock waves through the crowd, as nobody had ever heard such accusations against Nnamdi before. They had always known him to be a kind and caring person. Despite the disbelief, the woman insisted on her narrative, pointing directly at Nnamdi as she spoke. The confusion among the guests grew, and Olamma was just as puzzled. "Let me clarify," the woman said. Nnamdi once encountered a young girl named Amaka in a village far away from here. Nnamdi was resting under a tree after a long, exhausting walk, half asleep when he was bitten by a scorpion. Amaka, returning from her usual errands, heard screams in the distance. Curious, she followed the sound and found a man in distress, clutching his leg. He had earlier called for help for over an hour, but no one responded. Sadly, the venom from the scorpion bite was spreading very fast. But thankfully, Amaka had learned how to treat scorpion bites after tragically losing her only sister to a similar sting. With her parents already gone, she had been left alone with her elder sister at a young age. Because of her experience, Amaka skillfully treated Nnamdi and nursed him back to health. Grateful for her care, Nnamdi decided to stay with Amaka for a few days before continuing his journey. Amaka was happy to have company after such a long time, but it seemed that there was a mutual fondness growing between them. On the evening before Nnamdi was set to depart, Amaka wanted to make the most of their time together. They sat outside the old hut, sharing a meal and chatting about life in the village, exchanging jokes as they always did. Suddenly, as Amaka hurried into the hut to fetch a drink, disaster struck. The hem of her dress snagged on a wooden brick by the door, tearing it. Struggling to free herself, Amaka found herself exposed, but Nnamdi came to her rescue, helping her untangle from the wood. Embarrassed, Amaka dashed inside to change her dress, with Nnamdi following. Caught up in the moment and their closeness, they ended up being intimate. Amaka had harbored feelings for Nnamdi ever since she nursed him back to health. Despite her conflicted emotions, she had promised her late parents to wait until marriage, but the deed has been done. Sensing her unease, Nnamdi inquired about her feelings. Amaka confessed her inner turmoil. Nnamdi reassured her of his feelings and vowed to return for her, promising to take her away from the old hut. Few weeks later, Amaka started feeling sick. A woman she often helped to carry farm produce to the market for free held her hand and she looked into Amaka's eyeballs. "My dear, you are pregnant." Amaka dismissed her words, telling her it's mere fever. But the woman insisted. "Look at your butt, it's getting bigger. I strongly believe you're pregnant," she said, proclaiming her certainty. Skeptical, Amaka questioned her method. "But ma, how can you be sure that I'm pregnant by looking at my eyes and observing the size of my bust?" The woman didn't say anything, but she led her to her friend's house who happens to be a midwife and an expert in such matters. After a thorough examination and few questions, it was confirmed that Amaka was indeed pregnant. Confused and overwhelmed, Amaka burst into tears. The woman, knowing Amaka was an orphan, reassured her and promised to support and visit her regularly. She inquired about the father of the child, but Amaka remained silent. Months passed, yet Nnamdi never returned. The woman stood by Amaka, assisting her throughout her pregnancy journey. Eventually, Amaka safely gave birth to twin baby boys. They were adorable, with radiant eyes and soft skin. However, 3 months later, Amaka noticed something unsettling. The woman, who had been a constant support, suddenly stopped visiting. Amaka grew anxious, unsure of what had happened. She had no idea where the woman lived, having never been taken to her home. Left to fend for herself and her boys, Amaka struggled to make ends meet. Despite the hardships, her kindness attracted helpers and they managed to secure food for their daily needs. The boys thrived, bringing joy to Amaka's life. She took on various odd jobs to provide for her children. Then one day, Amaka fell seriously sick. She was struck by a disease known in the modern world as tuberculosis. Few weeks, she battled with coughing, weakness, fatigue, and loss of appetite. Desperate for a cure, she tried different herbal remedies, but none seemed to work. Her health continued to deteriorate as she lost weight rapidly. One of Amaka's neighbors suggested she visit a traditional healer. It was during this visit that she was diagnosed with tuberculosis. The healer advised her to send her children to their father to avoid them contracting the disease. However, he couldn't guarantee her survival, as the illness had already taken a toll on her body. Amaka felt a deep sense of sadness. It had been over 10 years since she last saw or heard from Nnamdi. Where would she even begin to look for him? She had always told her boys that their father had gone very far away for work. Now, she had to locate him to protect the twin boys from this deadly illness. Despite her reluctance, her love for her boys pushed her to make the effort. She asked around town and neighboring communities, describing Nnamdi's appearance, but no one seemed to know him. Despite her best efforts, she grew weaker and even more frail each day. Her once vibrant complexion now pale. Eventually, she was confined to her home. One evening, as the boys returned from the bush, a seer provided them with precise directions to find their father. Excitedly, they relayed the news to their mother, Amaka. A surge of determination coursed through her, and they set off towards the village where Nnamdi lived with his wife. Thanks to his prominence in the community, locating his house was relatively easy. Back in the present, the woman concluded her emotional speech with a heavy heart. I am Amaka, whom you forgot about 10 years ago. These are your children. I couldn't bear the thought of leaving this world without letting them know who their father is. With tears in her eyes, Amaka approached Nnamdi and handed him the twin boys, Ikenna and Arinze. Though they appeared frail, their resemblance to Nnamdi was undeniable. Nnamdi sighed, feeling a pang of sadness for not being there for his children since their birth. Despite his remorse, he was determined to preserve his reputation. Gathering his resolve, he approached Amaka, meeting her eyes briefly, before suddenly exclaiming, Hey woman, I don't know you, and I don't know what you're talking about. The guests began to murmur amongst themselves, shocked by Nnamdi's sudden denial. One woman in the crowd spoke out, questioning how this stranger could accuse Mr. Nnamdi of such cruelty. Nnamdi, feeling the pressure, ordered Amaka and the boys to leave. However, an elderly woman, a friend of his late mother, spoke privately with him, pleading for mercy. Out of respect for his mother's friend and a desire to prove his goodness, Nnamdi reluctantly agreed to let them stay. Amaka, tears streaming down her face, couldn't believe Nnamdi's actions. She assured her boys that they were safe with their father and bid them farewell, blessing them before leaving. The housekeeper then took the boys away, leaving a heavy atmosphere in the air. As the events continued, overshadowed by Amaka's distress, Olamma, Nnamdi's wife, breathed a sigh of relief when Nnamdi denied knowing the woman. Meanwhile, Ikenna and Arinze settled into the house, though Nnamdi and Olamma treated them with indifference as if they were invisible. Yet, Nnamdi couldn't help but observe them secretly as they helped with chores and kept the compound tidy. Despite their circumstances, the boys remained cheerful, which both impressed and troubled Nnamdi. Over time, a sense of guilt began to weigh heavily on Nnamdi's conscience. Despite hearing a voice urging him to do the right thing, he chose to ignore it for over a year. Then, one fateful night, Nnamdi had a clear dream. His late father appeared, urging him to act justly, emphasizing the innocence of the woman he had abandoned. Awakened by the intensity of the dream, Nnamdi was filled with a newfound determination to make amends. Olamma, entering the room after putting their son Ekene to sleep, found Nnamdi in a state of distress. He confessed everything to her, revealing his resolve to do what was right. Olamma, feeling betrayed and disappointed, struggled to come to terms with Nnamdi's revelation. The following day, Nnamdi entered the boys' room and embraced them tightly, seeking their forgiveness. He vowed to find their mother Amaka and reunite their family. Determined, he set a date to begin his search and asked for Amaka's forgiveness. What did you think happened next in the story? Leave a comment below. Watch out for the part 2 of the story.